Hi, today we're going to do a walkthrough of a modern data stack. So first, a little bit on what modern data stack is and why you want one. So essentially, it is the ability to centralize all of your data together over here in the Snowflake part of the data warehouse, centralizing all your data from your various sources into one spot so you can do better analysis on that data. There's three sources that data normally comes from. Obviously, there's other custom sources that can happen, but three main ones. First one is web analytics from places like Segment or Snowplow, a production database, for example here Postgres, but could be anything, or SaaS applications. That can be Reshard, Shopify, Facebook, NetSuite, Klaviyo, any service you use that you don't host yourself, basically. And in this demonstration, we're just going to focus on Segment, Web Analytics, and Shopify as our SaaS app. We're going to take those data sources and we're going to dump them into Snowflake over here, which is our data warehouse of choice. There's a few others like BigQuery or Redshift, but in my humble opinion, Snowflake is the one to go with. And then we're going to use dbt as a transformation tool, which allows us to clean up the data that gets dumped raw into the warehouse and to keep it organized so that business users who are using this data later get consistent, clear results. And then there's a ton of applications that sit on top of this, but we're not going to get into those today. We're just going to talk about setting up the basic stack from all your original sources to Snowflake and using dbt to organize things. So first, we would sign up for a Snowflake account. We would just click this Start for Free button. I've gone ahead and already done that, so we can see the screen that we'll see right after we're done signing up for Snowflake, not having changed anything else. In Snowflake, this line up here, this PFA 42107, that is our account number with Snowflake, and we'll be referencing that in other places. So just to make that clear, that is the account. And then the next service we'll be signing up for is Segment. So Segment, we can just click Create Free Account here. Again, I've already done that, and this is the interface you see right after you've signed up for Segment. So now we're going to add a source, and that's going to be our web traffic. Before we do that, let's look at how Segment does web tracking. So Segment's pretty easy to use for web tracking. You add a script here to your website, and then you have the ability to do things like identifying users or tracking actions that they take. And all those tracks, Segment takes care of currying all of those and putting them into a destination. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to add a source, and that source is going to be JavaScript. That's just going to be something that looks at our website and allows us to track things. Then, just put in some early values there. And now we've got our script. So we would take this script and we would put that script on our website, and then we would be able to do things like analytics.track, analytics.identify to be able to get that, that data from Segment. And that data will show up in here whenever that source is added. And then we add a destination, which is where that data we've tracked is going to end up. We'll use Snowflake, because that is what we've chosen as our data warehouse. And then we'll use our JavaScript tracking that we just set up before as our source for that. And now this is our connection between our JavaScript tracking and Snowflake up here. So this is our instance, which we call Snowflake. And then the account and the account here is just this PF 42107 value that we had in our Snowflake URL. If you look at our Snowflake URL, that's where we got that information. And we're going to create a new database called raw. And actually, I'm going to create a new database called segment. We're going to use, for now, we're just going to use the default Snowflake warehouse. Warehouses in Snowflake are a unit of computation, not a place to store things. So we're just going to use the default compute warehouse right here. Normally, you would set this up and have specific warehouses for loading, but we're just going to do this quickly. And now we've got the user, we're then going to go enter the Snowflake password. That password comes in, and then we're going to connect. We will be able to connect. There we go. So this connection is now done, and as data comes in, it will automatically be piped over into this Snowflake database we've named segment. So that is our segment connection. Now we are gonna look at Fivetran. So Fivetran, we did a similar thing. We've written signed up for a free account. After you sign up for a free account, the first thing you land on is this page. You can click set up a connector here. And we are going to set up a Shopify connector with a Shopify store. So the name of this store is Cross and Freckle, which in Shopify's API is just here, cross-freckle. Authorize for that. It's going to take me to Shopify with this. And I'm going to install this app. Service provider. When we set up Snowflake, we importantly chose AWS as our cloud service provider. So just for consistency, we're going to choose AWS here as well. We are going to test this. And it's going to take a little bit of time to connect to the API. And then we can click continue. And then now that we've got the connection with Shopify, we've got to tell it where we want. We've got to tell Fivetran where to put it. So we download it to Snowflake. And we're going to go through that same pattern that we did before with Fivetran. Now we're going to connect to Fivetran. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to follow their pattern. We're going to use our Snowflake account. And this time, they've added snowflakecomputing.com to the end of it. So we're going to make sure when we paste that here that we've got our normal account and also snowflakecomputing.com. Next, we are going to see here that they've got a Fivetran user and a database Fivetran. We're going to copy their script right here to create that, that database, that user, those other resources. And then we are also going to configure the network policy. If we already had a network policy in our Snowflake, we could just alter that policy to add the IP addresses so that Fivetran can connect. Since we just created our Snowflake, we don't have any network policies, so we are going to create this policy here. And now, let's go ahead and make sure that this script that's going to run and the data in here is synced up. So we're going to create a database called Fivetran database. So we're going to change this to Fivetran database. Password, we are going to do the same for now. Change that password. And then the role is going to be Fivetran role. We are using AWS, so we're going to change that. We're going to go over to this worksheet, and you can see we've got all these here. What this is going to do is this is going to create the role. that Fivetran role, create the user, that Fivetran user, give the role to the user, and then it's going to create the warehouse, which again is the unit of compute in Snowflake, not a place for storage. Then it's going to create the database, and then it's going to allow the role to access both the warehouse and the database. And then we would just click all queries and run these here. I've already run them, but we just click all queries and run. Same thing with our create network policy. We are just going to create this network policy, and we would just click run, and that would run and be created. Now we go back to our Fivetran dashboard. We should see our host, our user, our database, our password, our role. Everything looks right. Time zone is Eastern time. And then we do save and test. And it's going to take a while to save and test. So back a little bit. Go. Okay, that's fast. So now let's continue. We are still, so what we've done thus far is we've grabbed Shopify, we've authenticated Shopify, we've then authenticated Snowflake and connected Snowflake. Now we're going to select which tables we want to migrate from Shopify. So just for example, let's save some time and only do the orders. You would normally want all of this data, but we're just going to get history data and order data. That's order. So product, order, customer. Those are going to be the tables that we get. So let's do save and continue. And then we can start the initial sync whenever we want. So right now, we're going to start that initial sync. And Fivetran is going to kick off, and they're going to start syncing all that Shopify data with our Snowflake. That's going to take a little bit of time. So we are going to pull this data turkey out of the oven at a later date. And we're back. Now Fivetran is finished. We can see Fivetran run here to get all that data from Shopify. Took about 2.5 hours. And now when we check our Snowflake, look inside the Fivetran database, see the database Shopify, and we can see all of those tables. And then now, the final thing we're going to do is set up dbt. So dbt is going to help us manage complexity in this database and take SQL queries like the one I have here and turn that into, in this case, a view, but can also be a table. Something that helps make consistent, in this case, the definition of a repeat customer. So those definitions don't get mixed up and the numbers don't change depending on who you ask. So to look at the sample results of this, this is the kind of table we're going to get as a result. And we're going to go start getting this set up in dbt. Normally you would include a lot more information in here, but I've kept it light to keep it simple. So we'll go to dbt cloud. I've set up an account. After you set up an account with dbt cloud, this is the page you'll see. And we will click continue. Now we're going to connect again to our Snowflake database. Okay. So grab our Snowflake account. We did it before. And we are going to create a database in here for dbt called analytics. There we go. Make sure that that exists. Now I'm going to create a warehouse. We'll transform. Again, we've got the transformer house, and we've got an analytics database for DBT. Come in here, transform, and we're going to add some our credentials here. That's going to be my Snowflake username and Snowflake password. Snowflake password. Then we've got a development schema. So what this is going to be is just whenever I'm testing things out with DBT, that's what this schema is going to be. So this is going to be something that's specific to me, not in production for the company. We'll have a separate schema called prod or something like that. And we can test that connection, make sure that everything is good. Everything looks good. And now we continue. Okay. Best way to do this is going to be to set up a Git repository, which we will go through right now. We are now going to set up a Git repository. We've got a few options, GitLab, GitHub, or specifying a Git repository specifically. We're going to use the manage option just to keep it simple. And we will call this, we'll call this cross Freckle DBT. Name the company and DBT. Create. DBT will go and create that Git repository. We'll be able to take this Git repository from managed by DBT to something on our own GitHub account and load data if we want to. So we're not getting locked in to their service right now. We're going to skip inviting additional people. And then this is the page we'll see. Now we will click Start Development. DBT is going to live inside of our analytics database. So if we go back to our Snowflake, all the tables and things that we write in DBT will show up in the analytics database, but DBT will be able to access the Fivetran database, which is the source data we're going to be using for this model. It's still loading over here. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is initialize our project. Image graph, so we can see we've got a few things here. Under models, we have an example. So we've got my first DBT model, which just creates a table with value 1 and null is the source data. And second, we have a reference to that first model filtering our own. And now just so we can get an idea of this, we're going to go and run this. So we'll do dbt run, which is going to run both of these models and put them into our warehouse. So we'll be able to run this, and then we'll be able to see those two models inside our Snowflake. Maybe. Looks like we've got to create a schema. Now we saw that error with DBT where we didn't have the schema. So a few things we're going to do to be able to remedy that. So first thing we're going to need to do is to be able to create this new schema. And then since we're using the default role instead of creating a new role, which is the best practice and you should do if you're going to use DBT in production. But for this simple example, we're just going to use the default role, which is sysadmin. We're going to need to grant a few permissions to that sysadmin role so the DBT can access this new schema and the database we've created. So we're going to grant access on the database to the sysadmin role, grant access to this individual schema to the sysadmin role, and then grant the sysadmin role access to the transform warehouse. So we're going to do all of these things. And then we're going to go back to DBT, and we're going to try that again. We're going to try DBT run here. So now first DBT model is running, second DBT model is running, and they've both run. So now we can go back to Snowflake, check out analytics under my personal schema, and then we can look at my first DBT model. There we see ID1 and the second one null, which is what we expect when we look at the source data here. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a simple model. So DBT follows a pattern of creating staging models, where they basically take the existing raw tables, take care of all of the naming and such like that, and then create more complex interactions between the tables later on. We're just going to have one simple model that basically takes the orders table and enriches it with a few fields, just to show an example. So we need to move forward, call this staging. Inside of staging, we're going to add a new file, and that's going to be stage Shopify order. There we go. So now we've got our new file here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to that SQL statement that we wanted to turn into a DBT model. Just going to copy this SQL statement, and we're going to stick this in DBT. There's a few ways you can have a sort of nicer reference to sources here. We're not going to go over that now. DBT covers that pretty well in the documentation. Right now, what we want is to just turn the SQL table into a view that's going to always be there for us whenever we need it. So we're going to save this file, and then now we're going to hit DBT run again. And it's running now. We refresh these models, and now we have stage Shopify order. So now, let's open up a new space. Look inside of analytics, inside of my schema. We've got our stage Shopify order here. Now, let's do select start from this table. See, we've got 136 rows. We can see cities, how much the order was paid, and whether the order was moved. So let's do a quick SQL query to figure out how much revenue we got from various cities. There we go. We can see that most of the revenue came from New York, Brooklyn, and then Jerome after that. And that is a quick example of how to set up DBT with Snowflake. So now we've got DBT properly creating tables and views inside of Snowflake. We're running that on a schedule that we can set up inside of DBT Cloud. We've got all that data from our various sources, Shopify and Segment. We've got data from Shopify using Fivetran, and we've got data from Segment that we got in Notice using Segment's native integration. And I hope this has been a helpful run-through of how to set up a modern data stack using Snowflake as your data warehouse.